AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she asked me to lie to our parents. So I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emma, 25F. Our parents are traditional and very strict, and while they're generally loving, they can be controlling, especially about family image and appearances. Emma has always been the rebellious type, but she's never done anything outright scandalous, at least nothing that would make our parents freak out. Emma got engaged to her boyfriend, Alex, about 6 months ago. They've been together for 4 years and live together, which is fine for most people, but our parents would completely disapprove if they knew they were already living together before marriage. Emma knew this, so she asked me for a favor early on. She wanted me to tell our parents that they had only just moved in together after the engagement, which wasn't true. She said she didn't want them to find out the truth because they would make a huge scene and maybe even try to sabotage the wedding. At first, I was hesitant. I've always been close to Emma, but I also have a very complicated relationship with our parents. They tend to guilt trip and manipulate, and I hate being involved in lies that feel like I'm covering up something significant. I told Emma that I wasn't sure I could lie to them, but she begged, saying I was the only person she trusted to keep the peace. I eventually agreed reluctantly, thinking it would be just a small white lie, and maybe I could protect both of them. I rehearsed exactly what I would say. Yes, they had moved in together, but only after the engagement. Fast forward to last week, when Emma came to me, practically in tears. She said she had decided to have a huge bridal shower in our hometown and wanted our parents to attend. She also said that because I had agreed to lie for her, I was now expected to answer any questions our parents asked without revealing the truth. She said if I refused, she would understand, but she really wanted me there as a shield for her so that our parents wouldn't interrogate her about the living situation. I told her I couldn't do it. I realized that being her shield would put me in a morally compromising position and would be actively lying to our parents in a way that could destroy my relationship with them if they ever found out. Emma was furious. She said that I was being selfish, that I was ruining her wedding experience, and that I was betraying her trust. She even said that our parents might get suspicious if I didn't attend because they know I usually support Emma unconditionally. We got into a huge argument. I told her that I wasn't going to compromise my integrity for a wedding, and that if she wanted me there, she needed to be honest with our parents herself. I reminded her that she had known the risks when she moved in with Alex, and that it wasn't fair to ask me to lie for her. She accused me of being dramatic and suggested that maybe I didn't actually care about her happiness. After that, I told her I wouldn't attend the wedding if lying was expected of me. Emma went full-on silent treatment, stopped responding to my calls, and started posting cryptic messages on social media about people who can't support their loved ones. Our parents, who were involved in the wedding planning, reached out to me, asking why I hadn't RSVP'd yet. I told them that I wasn't comfortable attending if I had to lie about something significant, and I left it at that. They seemed confused but didn't push further. Now, Emma's wedding is in 2 weeks, and she has publicly implied that I'm not attending because I don't care about her or her happiness. Some friends and cousins have started asking me if I'm upset with her or holding grudges, and I feel stuck. Part of me feels like I'm protecting myself from a moral compromise, but another part feels guilty because I know how much this wedding means to her. To complicate things further, my parents have sent subtle messages that they are disappointed in me, saying things like family comes first and you need to support your sister. I feel like I'm caught between my ethics and my family's expectations. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I don't want to lie to our parents. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from her bridal party. I, 28F, have always been close with my younger sister, Emily, 25F. Growing up, we were inseparable despite having very different personalities. She's outgoing and loud, while I'm quieter and more introverted. I've always been supportive of her and made an effort to be there for every milestone. I also have a very tight-knit group of friends, all of whom I've known for over a decade. About 6 months ago, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 27M. When she announced it to the family, I was genuinely happy for her and offered to help with whatever she needed. She mentioned she was going to have a small bridal party with only her 2 best friends and didn't initially bring up my involvement. I assumed she'd ask me later, as was common in our family for sisters. A few weeks later, Emily officially asked her 2 friends to be her bridesmaids. I was shocked to realize she didn't include me or even ask if I wanted to participate. When I confronted her privately, she told me that she didn't think it would work because I don't handle stress well and might get overwhelmed by wedding planning. I tried to explain that I actually enjoy organizing and helping and that I would have loved to be part of her wedding, but she said her decision was final. I felt hurt and embarrassed. I've been to multiple weddings, including her closest friends and family members, and I've never caused any problems. Her reasoning seemed unfair, and I couldn't help but feel excluded in a way that no one else in the family was. I decided to try to remain supportive. I offered to help with the invitations, decorations, and even the seating chart. At first, Emily accepted my help, but soon she started giving me very minor tasks and micromanaging everything I did. She would criticize the way I folded napkins, how I arranged centerpieces, and even the font choice on the invitations. It felt humiliating to be helping so much, yet being constantly criticized in front of her fiancé and friends. As the wedding approached, things escalated. Emily's friends, her bridesmaids, started telling me that she had always wanted this to be a small, intimate wedding, and that including me would ruin the vibe. They framed it as if I were the problem, not Emily's decision. I tried explaining my perspective calmly, but it felt like no one was listening. 3 weeks before the wedding, I sat Emily down again and said I didn't feel comfortable being involved under the current circumstances. I explained that I loved her and wanted to support her, but I couldn't be part of a process where I was constantly criticized and made to feel unwelcome. She was furious. She accused me of being dramatic, selfish, and trying to ruin her big day. I told her that I wasn't trying to ruin anything, but I needed to prioritize my own mental health. She refused to talk further and told me she didn't want me at the wedding at all if I wasn't going to participate properly. I felt blindsided. I genuinely wanted to attend, but now it seemed like my presence would create tension. After discussing with my parents, they said it was ultimately my choice, but that Emily would likely be very upset if I didn't show. I tried reaching out one more time to apologize for any perceived offense and said I'd be happy to attend as a guest only. Emily responded by saying that if I showed up as a guest, it would make things awkward for everyone and that I shouldn't bother coming. I decided not to attend. Instead, I sent her a heartfelt letter expressing my love, wishing her happiness, and explaining that I was hurt by the way I was excluded from her bridal party and treated during the planning. I also sent a generous wedding gift and offered to celebrate with her privately after the wedding. Naturally, this caused a huge rift. My parents are disappointed, saying I should have swallowed my pride. Emily hasn't spoken to me since, and her friends have started calling me dramatic on social media. Meanwhile, my friends are supportive and tell me I made the right choice for my own well-being. Some extended family members have asked me if I'll attend, and I've stuck to my decision. I keep wondering if I overreacted because I do value my sister deeply and it pains me to be estranged over this. But I also can't shake the feeling that being excluded from such a major part of her life, combined with the way she treated me during planning, was unfair and emotionally harmful. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she excluded me from her bridal party and treated me poorly during the planning process. Character count, 6,426 if you want. I can also craft an even longer version hitting close to 7,000 characters with added drama and subplots like friends interference, gift conflicts, or extended family opinions to make it read exactly like the most viral AITA stories. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in even though it would help him out. I, 29F, have always tried to be a generous person, But I recently found myself in a situation that has my family furious at me, and I'm questioning if I actually overreacted. My sister, Megan, 26F, has been dating her boyfriend, Ethan, 28M, for about a year. Ethan recently lost his job due to a company downsizing, and Megan suggested he move in with me temporarily while he got back on his feet. On paper, it seems reasonable, but there's a lot of context that makes this really complicated. First, some background. I live alone in a small 2-bedroom apartment in a city where rent is ridiculously high. I work a full-time job that is demanding, and I also freelance on the side, which means I often have clients coming over for meetings. My apartment is not huge, and I value my space. Megan and I have always had a close relationship, but she tends to be very impulsive and doesn't always think through the consequences of her suggestions. Megan called me one Friday evening, sounding panicked. She said that Ethan had just lost his job, had no savings, and that if he didn't find somewhere to stay immediately, he'd have to couch surf or worse, return to his parents in a different state. She asked if he could move in with me for a few weeks until he stabilized. My first reaction was to say no, but I tried to hear her out. I asked some practical questions. How long exactly does he think he'll need to stay? How is he planning to contribute to rent or groceries? What about my freelance clients coming over? Megan's answers were vague. She kept saying, just a couple of weeks, and he's really responsible, you'll see. I told her that my apartment is tiny, I work from home frequently, and I'm not sure I can accommodate a full-grown adult indefinitely. Megan started getting defensive, saying I was being selfish and that families should help each other out in times of need. She said that I had always had more stable finances and more space, so it made sense for me to be the one to step up. I tried explaining that while I do okay financially, my rent is already high and my work schedule doesn't allow for disruption. She countered with, it's just for a little while, and he's really good at cleaning and cooking, so it won't be a problem. I still wasn't comfortable. I asked if Ethan had applied for unemployment benefits, temporary housing, or even looked for a short-term sublet. Megan admitted he hadn't, saying that he was too stressed and that she wanted to fix it for him. I reiterated that I wasn't comfortable having him move in. I offered alternative suggestions. I could help him look for temporary housing or lend him some money for the first month of a sublet, but I could not house him myself. Megan then started guilt-tripping me heavily. She said I was prioritizing my comfort over family, that this was exactly the kind of thing she always expected from me, and that if I truly cared about her and her happiness, I would help. She also texted our parents about the situation, framing it as me being unwilling to support my family. That evening, I received multiple calls and messages from my parents asking why I wouldn't help Ethan. The next day, Ethan himself called me. He sounded polite, but clearly frustrated. He said he understood I might not want him there, but he also mentioned that Megan had told him I had basically said no without thinking about it, and that it made him feel unwelcome. I told him directly that it wasn't personal, but I cannot accommodate another adult in my apartment right now. I also offered to help him search for temporary housing and suggested a few local hostels and short-term rentals. After that, Megan got angry. She said I was overreacting, that it was a tiny inconvenience to let him stay, and that he would only be there for a couple of weeks. She accused me of being controlling and of not supporting her relationship. She told me that if I continued to refuse, she would stop talking to me. Our parents even called me, saying that I should be the bigger person and do the right thing. I tried to explain my reasoning again. My apartment is small, my work requires space and privacy, and having another adult living here would be extremely disruptive. I also stressed that I'm willing to help financially in other ways or assist in finding housing, but I cannot let someone move in without a clear plan. Despite all this, Megan and Ethan have continued to pressure me, framing me as selfish and uncaring. Friends I've spoken to are split. Some say I should help because it's family, while others agree that I'm not obligated to disrupt my life entirely. I genuinely feel like I'm trying to compromise by helping in other ways without putting myself in a difficult position, but my sister and parents are painting me as the villain. So, Reddit, AITA here for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in, even though he's in a tough spot. I feel like I'm being reasonable, but the backlash has me second-guessing myself. I should also mention that Megan and I have had tensions in the past over boundaries. She tends to assume I'll drop everything for her, and she has a habit of exaggerating situations to get people to act. I'm trying not to let that influence my judgment here, but I'm struggling. I'm now in a position where my relationship with my sister is strained, my parents are disappointed, and I feel like I'm being attacked for setting a boundary that is important for my well-being. Has anyone dealt with a situation like this? Was I wrong to draw the line here? Or am I actually being reasonable? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move into my house after their engagement. I, 29F, have lived in the same apartment for about 6 years now. It's not huge, but it's cozy, and I've worked hard to make it feel like home. I live alone, and I really value my space and routine. A little context. My sister, Emily, 27F, has always been a little impulsive when it comes to big life decisions. She's also been my best friend most of my life, but we've had our fair share of disagreements. About a year ago, Emily started dating this guy, Kevin, 28M. I wasn't super impressed at first because he seemed a little intense, overbearing, always wanted to talk about serious stuff or make big plans. But I tried to keep an open mind because Emily seemed happy. Fast forward to a couple of months ago, Emily and Kevin got engaged. I congratulated them and even helped her plan a small celebration with close friends. Here's where the problem started. Shortly after the engagement, Emily mentioned that Kevin might move in with me temporarily. She phrased it like, "I was thinking Kevin could stay with you for a bit until we find a place together. It would really help us financially." At first, I thought maybe she meant for a few days, like a weekend, but she clarified it could be weeks or even months. I told her immediately that I wasn't comfortable with that. I work from home. I enjoy having my own space, and frankly, I don't think it's fair to expect me to house her fiancé indefinitely. I suggested they look for a short-term rental or ask their parents. Emily got defensive, saying I was being selfish and that family should help each other out. I tried to reason with her. I told her that I love her, I want her to be happy, and I'll support them in other ways, but I can't let Kevin move in with me. I even offered to help them look for affordable options or even help with the deposit if money was an issue. But she kept insisting. She said, "We just need a temporary place, and you're the only person who can help." I reminded her that I need to feel comfortable in my own home and that having a stranger, even if it's Kevin, living with me for months would stress me out. Then it got worse. Emily started calling me less, sending passive-aggressive texts, and saying things like, "I guess family doesn't really support each other when it matters," and "I can't believe you'd rather your comfort than help your sister." I tried to explain that helping financially or helping find a place would still be supporting her, but it didn't seem to matter. Kevin apparently started calling me too, trying to charm me into agreeing, which made me even more uncomfortable. A few weeks later, Emily came over unannounced with Kevin. They wanted to talk in person about me letting him move in. I told them both that my answer was still no. Emily got visibly upset, and Kevin looked annoyed. Emily said, "I can't believe you're choosing your apartment over your own family. Do you even care about me?" I got angry because it felt like they were trying to guilt me. I said, "I care about you a lot, but that doesn't mean you get to disregard my boundaries. I'm not letting Kevin move in. You can be mad at me, but I will not compromise my comfort and space." They left after a tense conversation, Emily storming out and Kevin muttering something about me being difficult. After that, things have been tense. Emily has barely spoken to me except for occasional cold texts. Kevin hasn't contacted me since that day, but I know Emily is venting to family about me. My parents are slightly frustrated, saying I should make sacrifices for family, but they also say they understand that everyone needs their space. Some of my friends say I'm in the right for setting boundaries, but others say I'm overreacting and should at least let him stay for a week or two. I feel like I'm the villain here because Emily keeps framing it as me being selfish and not supportive of her marriage plans. But I genuinely don't see how I'm being unreasonable. I am willing to help in other ways, just not by letting someone live in my apartment for an indefinite period. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé move in with me after their engagement. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after discovering a huge secret about her fiancé. I, 28F, Have always had a close relationship with my sister, Lily, 32F. We grew up really tight, shared everything, and even after moving to different cities for work, we've stayed close. I consider myself the responsible sibling, the one everyone can rely on to be honest and practical, while Lily has always been more impulsive and dramatic. A few months ago, Lily got engaged to her boyfriend, Mark, 34M. At first, I was excited for her because she seemed genuinely happy. Mark comes across as charming, successful, and really attentive to Lily, which I assumed made him a good match. I was invited to be part of the bridal party, and I started helping her with wedding planning. Things started to feel off when I met Mark in a more casual setting. We went to a family dinner at my parents' house, and while he was polite, there were a few moments where I noticed him saying things that made me uncomfortable. He would make subtle digs at my career choices, or tell jokes that seemed a little mean-spirited. I brushed it off at first, thinking maybe I was being sensitive. Lily didn't notice anything, and she was completely smitten. 2 weeks ago, I was at a small party with some mutual friends, and I overheard something I couldn't ignore. Mark was talking to a friend about Lily, and he mentioned that he had been seeing someone else on the side while they were dating. At first, I thought maybe I misunderstood, but the more I listened, the clearer it became. This wasn't a one-time mistake. He casually referred to balancing things between Lily and this other woman, as if it was completely normal. I was shocked. I couldn't believe Lily didn't know. I debated whether I should say something immediately or wait to gather more information. I decided to confront Mark privately before saying anything to Lily. When I brought up with him, he laughed it off, saying I had misinterpreted his words and that there was nothing going on. But his tone and smug attitude made me feel like he wasn't being honest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had heard the truth. I told myself I had to talk to Lily, even though I knew it would devastate her. But when I did, it turned into a huge argument. I told her what I had overheard, and she immediately got defensive. She accused me of trying to sabotage her happiness, of not trusting her judgment, and of making up lies. She insisted Mark would never cheat and that I had no proof. Our argument escalated, and we haven't really spoken properly since then. The wedding is in 2 weeks. Initially, I was planning to go despite the tension because I didn't want to create a scene. But after a lot of thinking, I realized that attending would feel like endorsing her choice, which I can't do knowing what I know, or at least strongly suspect. I called my parents and explained the situation. They were caught in the middle. They didn't know what to believe either. My mom said she thought I should go for family harmony, while my dad admitted he was concerned too, but didn't want to alienate Lily. I decided I couldn't attend. I sent Lily a message explaining that I couldn't be there because I couldn't in good conscience celebrate her marriage when I suspected her fiancé was dishonest and possibly cheating. I tried to frame it as coming from a place of love and concern, but she exploded. She called me manipulative, controlling, and said I was making her wedding about myself. She also accused me of trying to turn the family against Mark. Since then, my relationship with her has been tense. Some family members are on my side, saying I was trying to protect her, while others think I overstepped and should have just kept quiet. Friends are split too. Some think I did the right thing by being honest. Others think I should have let her live her life, even if I didn't like her choice. I feel torn. On one hand, I don't want to attend a wedding where I feel like I'm betraying my own values. On the other hand, I hate the idea of causing a permanent rift with my sister over this, especially since it's her big day and she's clearly in love, or at least thinks she is. I've considered reaching out one more time to see if she wants to talk calmly, but I'm afraid it will just turn into another argument. At this point, I'm leaning towards staying away entirely, but part of me feels guilty, like I'm abandoning her at a critical moment. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because I suspect her fiancé has been cheating, even though she doesn't want to hear it. Character count, 6,428 if you want. I can also draft a slightly longer, more dramatic version pushing closer to 7,000 characters, including more dialogue and emotional beats, which tends to perform even better for Reddit-style posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to lend my brother my car after he treated me horribly during my wedding. I, 29F, have always been close with my family, or at least I thought I was. My brother, Jake, 32M, and I have had a strained relationship over the years. It's not that he's malicious, but he has a way of making everything about himself and expects people to drop everything for him. That said, I've tried to keep things civil because, well, he's family. Fast forward to last year, my wedding. I married my partner, Mark, 31M, after a 4-year relationship. I had been planning the wedding for about 18 months and wanted everything to be perfect. Jake offered to be my best man. Initially, I thought this was sweet, but in hindsight, it was a mistake. A month before the wedding, Jake started sending me lists, lengthy, specific lists of things he wanted changed about the wedding. The seating arrangements, the flowers, the music playlist, even the color of the napkins. I tried to accommodate some of his suggestions, but many were unreasonable. I told him politely that these were my decisions and that he could help with logistics, but he took offense. He said, "If you won't consider my opinion, maybe I shouldn't be part of this at all." I reluctantly insisted he stay involved, hoping he would calm down. During the rehearsal, things escalated. Jake made a big scene about where he would sit, loudly complaining that the groom's friends were taking all the attention. He interrupted the rehearsal dinner multiple times to demand changes. I felt like my wedding was turning into his personal stage. The wedding day itself was even worse. He arrived late, claimed the suit I bought for him didn't fit right, even though I'd had it tailored, and spent the first half of the ceremony whispering complaints to anyone who would listen. Then, during the reception, he openly criticized the food to the caterers and stomped around saying the DJ was ruining the vibe. I honestly wanted to disappear, but Mark and I had guests counting on us. The final straw came when Jake grabbed the microphone during the speeches and made a 15-minute rant about how our wedding wasn't as fun as it should have been and how I supposedly didn't include him in enough planning. People were shocked. My mother cried, my father was furious, and Mark just looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. I pulled the mic from him and told him he had ruined the moment, which led to a huge argument in front of everyone. After that, Jake sat at a corner table, refusing to speak to anyone for the rest of the evening. I was beyond done, but I didn't want to start a family feud, so I avoided speaking about it for months. He didn't apologize, and honestly, I didn't expect him to. Here's where the current issue comes in. Jake recently asked to borrow my car. He claimed he needed it because his own car was in the shop. I drive a modest but reliable vehicle, and I have lent it out in the past to friends and family without issue, but I instantly felt hesitant. My gut told me lending it to Jake would be a mistake. I told him I wasn't comfortable lending him my car. He immediately got defensive and said, "After everything I've done for you, you can't even trust me with your car?" I reminded him that helping me at the wedding didn't involve him trying to sabotage one of the most important days of my life, and that lending him my car would require trusting him not to act recklessly. He accused me of holding grudges and being unfair. My parents got involved after he called them, and now they're upset with me. They said I'm overreacting and that I should forgive and move on. My friends support me, saying that after the wedding, I have every right to set boundaries. Jake texted me yesterday saying, "You're impossible. I thought family meant more than this," and I just ignored it. I know he's trying to guilt me into giving him the car, but I honestly feel like it's the first time I've stood up for myself in years. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to lend my brother my car after the way he behaved at my wedding. Character count, 6,431. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she excluded me from key decisions. So, this is going to be a long one, but I really need an outside perspective because my family is now split, and I feel like I might be the asshole, even though I honestly don't think I am. A little background. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Mia, 28F, who is getting married in about 3 months. Growing up, we were close, but the past few years our relationship has become strained. Not drastically, but enough that we don't talk every day. Mia is extremely controlling and has always had strong opinions about how things should be done, while I tend to be more laid back and go with the flow. When she got engaged last year, I was genuinely excited for her and offered to help in any way I could. She initially asked me to help pick her wedding dress and come to fittings, which I was happy to do. But then things started to get weird. She started making decisions without consulting me, even when she specifically asked for my opinion. For example, she told me she had already chosen bridesmaids' dresses, flowers, and even the seating arrangements. When I asked why I wasn't consulted, she said, "I thought you'd be too opinionated, so I just figured I'd decide." I was hurt, but tried to brush it off. I figured maybe she just wanted to handle it herself. But then things escalated. A few months ago, she invited me to what she called a planning meeting at her house with her fiancé, her maid of honor, and her mom. I showed up, thinking we're going to go over some logistics or maybe brainstorm ideas. Instead, it turned into a full-blown critique session about the bridesmaids, vendors, and even her guests. She repeatedly said things like, "I don't know why anyone would let you do this. You always make everything so dramatic," or "Don't worry, we'll handle this. You just sit there and nod." It was humiliating in front of everyone. I left feeling embarrassed and hurt. After that, I decided I couldn't actively participate in planning anymore. I told her that while I was happy for her, I would step back and just attend the wedding without getting involved in the day-to-day planning. I assumed she would understand, given what happened. Fast forward to last week. Mia called me, visibly upset, saying that she needed my help with a major crisis. One of the vendors canceled, and she wanted me to take over finding a replacement and coordinating logistics, essentially doing the work of her wedding planner for free. She said she couldn't handle it without me, and that she trusted me more than anyone else. I told her I was sorry, but that I had stepped back from planning and that I couldn't take this on at the last minute. She started crying and accused me of not caring about her wedding, saying, "I can't believe you would abandon me when I need you most." She also called me selfish and said I was ruining her big day. Our mom got involved and tried to mediate. She said that I was being unreasonable and that family helps each other during life events like weddings. I understand her point, but I also feel like my sister has repeatedly ignored my feelings and treated me like I'm just there to execute her orders rather than be a part of her life. I've already made the decision not to be involved in planning, and I don't think it's fair for her to guilt me into doing all this work now. I've offered to help in small ways, like attending the rehearsal dinner, helping set up on the day of the wedding, or helping with minor tasks that don't require major time commitments. She says that's not enough and keeps bringing up all the ways I've supposedly failed her as a sister. Our family is now split, with some saying I should do whatever she asks because it's her wedding, and others agreeing that she's been controlling and manipulative. I feel torn. On one hand, it's her big day, and I don't want to be the villain. On the other hand, I genuinely feel like she's trying to force me into a role I explicitly opted out of and has not treated me with respect. I'm worried that if I give in now, it will set a precedent for her to control me in future situations too. So, AITA for refusing to step in and take over her wedding planning after I made it clear I was stepping back. Even though my sister is now crying and claiming I don't care about her, I can provide more context if needed, like the specific ways she excluded me earlier, but that's the gist of it. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé plan our family vacation, even though he insists he knows what's best. I, 32F, have always been the planner in my family. Growing up, my parents relied on me to organize everything from birthdays to road trips, and as adults, I continued the tradition. My younger sister, Emily, 29F, is sweet but notoriously indecisive. Over the years, I've learned that if I want a smooth family event, I have to take the reins. Last year, Emily got engaged to her fiancé, Jason, 31M. At first, I liked him. He's charming and clearly adores Emily. But he has this overbearing, I know best attitude that tends to clash with people who aren't easily swayed, me being one of them. Since their engagement, he's been very involved in everything family-related, often offering helpful suggestions that end up complicating things. Here's where the conflict started. Our family has a tradition of a yearly summer vacation where all immediate family gathers. For the past several years, I've been in charge of planning, and everyone appreciates it because I try to accommodate everyone's needs and budgets. When Emily and Jason got engaged, Emily naturally assumed we'd invite him along, which was fine. But once he was involved, he immediately began asserting himself. This year, I started planning the vacation in early February. I booked a beach house, organized car rentals, and even set up a basic itinerary of activities that everyone usually enjoys. I sent a preliminary email to everyone outlining options and asking for feedback. Almost immediately, Jason responded with a long list of corrections and improvements. He claimed the beach house I booked was too small and that the rental cars were not ideal. He suggested a completely different location that required everyone to fly instead of drive and argued that he had found better accommodations. I tried to be diplomatic. I explained that the beach house was the same size we've rented in previous years, and driving keeps costs down and is easier for my parents. He dismissed all of that, saying he was only thinking about what's best for the family and that I was being stubborn. I reminded him politely that I have planned these trips for years and that I have a system that works. He accused me of being controlling and said I was not considering new ideas and that Emily would appreciate a fresh perspective. The tension escalated when Emily, caught in the middle, said she thought Jason had some good points and that maybe we should compromise. I agreed we could discuss options, but I refused to let Jason dictate everything. I told Emily that she could bring suggestions, but I was still in charge of the overall plan because this is my family tradition. That's when Jason got visibly frustrated. He crossed his arms, gave me a lecture about teamwork and modern approaches, and said I was holding everyone back by refusing to consider his plans. I stood my ground. I calmly explained that the goal is to make sure the trip works for everyone and doesn't become chaotic, which is why I stick to a familiar method. I also pointed out that his alternative plan would significantly increase costs and travel time for everyone, and that some family members might not be able to participate. Emily tried to mediate, but Jason got increasingly passive-aggressive. He started sending side messages to my parents and siblings complaining that I was controlling and not open-minded. My parents eventually called me, asking me to just let Jason help to avoid conflict, but I refused. I reminded them that I'm not opposed to input, but I will not hand over the reins to someone who hasn't spent years coordinating the logistics and understanding everyone's limits. Things came to a head last week. Jason sent a group text suggesting we vote on the location and that anyone who disagrees with him is unreasonable. I responded politely that the vacation was planned with everyone's best interests in mind and that the house and cars were already booked, so we should move forward as planned. Jason then sent Emily a private text calling me controlling and stubborn and claiming that the trip will inevitably be a disaster if she listens to me. Emily brought this to me, upset that Jason is framing me as the villain. I explained my side again, emphasizing that I'm not trying to exclude him or disrespect his ideas, but that I cannot let someone else take over the family tradition I've been managing for years. She asked if I was willing to compromise, like letting him pick one activity or day, but I said yes, that's reasonable, but the bulk of planning must stay with me. Now the problem is, Jason is sulking, refusing to communicate directly with me, and Emily seems torn. Some extended family members have started weighing in, saying I should let him help to avoid tension. But honestly, if I cede control, I fear the trip will turn into a logistical nightmare and that some family members will not be able to participate comfortably. I feel like I'm being reasonable, but I also know that I might appear rigid or controlling from the outside. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to let my sister's fiancé take over the family vacation planning, even though he insists he knows better? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for telling my sister she couldn't bring her boyfriend to my wedding after he humiliated me in front of our family. So this is going to be long, but I feel like I need to give the full context. I, 29F, have been planning my wedding with my fiancé, Mark 30M, for the past year. We finally set a date for late spring, and things were mostly going smoothly. My sister, Emily, 27F, is a few years younger than me and has always been a little difficult, but I've mostly brushed it off because family stuff can be complicated. The issue started about 6 months ago when Emily introduced me to her new boyfriend, Jason, 28M. I'll admit, I wasn't super excited to meet him at first. Emily tends to jump from relationship to relationship, and I've been cautious about getting involved too much with her partners. But Jason seemed okay on the surface, funny, charming, and seemed genuinely interested in Emily. Or so I thought. A few months into knowing him, we had a small family gathering for my parents' anniversary. It was casual, nothing fancy, just drinks and dinner at their place. I had invited Emily and Jason, and everything started off fine. But then Jason started making these little jokes that quickly became uncomfortable. He made comments about how my fiancé and I were wasting money on the wedding and how our guest list was ridiculously large for a simple backyard ceremony. I laughed awkwardly at first, hoping he was joking, but then he kept escalating. He started making fun of Mark's job in front of my parents, suggesting he wasn't ambitious enough to be my husband. My parents looked shocked, and I felt my face burn. I pulled him aside later and told him that those comments were not funny and that it was completely inappropriate. He apologized but shrugged it off as banter, saying I was too sensitive. At that point, I started keeping my distance from him, trying to avoid further incidents. Fast forward to a month ago. Emily called me, excited to tell me she wanted to come with Jason to my bridal shower. I was hesitant, but I didn't want to be the mean sister, so I said okay. The day of the shower, Jason showed up and immediately started making snide remarks about the decorations, the food, and even the gifts. Then he made an incredibly personal joke about me and Mark's relationship, something he had no business knowing, and laughed like everyone should find it funny. I was mortified, and some of my friends looked uncomfortable too. After that, I told Emily privately that Jason could not attend my wedding. I explained that he had embarrassed me multiple times in front of family and friends, and I could not have that energy at my wedding. Emily lost it. She started yelling that I was controlling and that she was not coming without him. She said that I was picking favorites and that she didn't care about Mark's feelings or mine, and accused me of trying to ruin her relationship. She called our parents and apparently told them I had banned her boyfriend. My parents were upset, saying I was being too harsh and that I should just get over it because it's Emily's relationship. I tried explaining to everyone that it wasn't about being controlling, it was about respect and boundaries. A wedding is one of the most important days of a person's life, and I didn't want someone there who had repeatedly humiliated me. But Emily refuses to speak to me now, and she's been posting vague Instagram stories about family drama and toxic people. Some of our mutual friends are now reaching out to see why there's tension, and I feel like I'm being painted as the villain. Mark is completely on my side. He agrees that Jason's behavior has been unacceptable and supports my decision, but I can't help feeling guilty about the impact on my sister. I want a peaceful wedding, but I also don't want to feel attacked in front of my loved ones. I'm starting to wonder if I really was too harsh. I keep thinking maybe I should just let her bring him and deal with it, but the thought of him making rude comments during my wedding is stressing me out. I feel stuck between wanting a drama-free day and maintaining a relationship with my sister. So, Reddit, AITA for telling my sister she couldn't bring her boyfriend to my wedding, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner after she embarrassed me in front of my friends at my birthday party. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister, Megan, 28F. We grew up fairly close, but as adults, our personalities have clashed a lot. I'm introverted, value my privacy, and I don't enjoy being the center of attention. Megan, on the other hand, thrives on attention, drama, and social situations. She's always been a bit competitive, even with things that don't need competition, and I've learned to pick my battles with her over the years. The incident that started this whole mess happened at my birthday party a few months ago. I invited a small group of friends over to my house. I specifically asked for it to be low-key because, as I said, I don't like big gatherings. Megan knew this. I told her, please just be yourself, but don't make it about you. I really thought that was clear enough. Well, she apparently thought otherwise. She showed up 2 hours late with a huge entourage of her friends, all of whom I didn't know. Immediately, she started loudly announcing that it was her surprise party for me and dragged a karaoke machine into my living room. I tried to politely tell her that it wasn't a surprise party and that I prepared dinner for everyone, but she waved me off and started singing on the machine anyway. The worst part was when she started telling embarrassing stories about my past in front of my friends. One story involved a crush I had in high school that ended very awkwardly, and another was about a minor incident at work that was completely irrelevant and mortifying. I was literally cringing so hard I could feel my face heating up. My friends tried to laugh politely, but I could tell they were uncomfortable. I finally had to pull Megan aside and ask her to stop, which she did, but only after half the stories were already out. After that, I basically avoided her for a few weeks because I was so embarrassed and upset. I thought she might apologize, but instead she started dropping hints that she expected me to host her wedding rehearsal dinner because I have a nice house and good taste. She has always been a bit entitled, but I figured maybe I could handle it if it was just a small, simple dinner. When I told her I wasn't comfortable hosting because of my birthday incident, she flipped out. She accused me of holding a grudge, being petty, and making everything about yourself. She said I was the only person in the family who could host it properly, and that refusing would force her to find a less suitable venue. She even brought our parents into it, trying to guilt-trip me by saying how disappointed they would be if I didn't help. I tried to explain that I wasn't refusing because of laziness or meanness, but because I genuinely do not feel comfortable hosting her wedding events after what happened at my birthday. I also said that if she wanted a nice rehearsal dinner, she should consider booking a small restaurant or another venue that doesn't involve me. She yelled at me, called me selfish, and has barely spoken to me since. Now, our parents are subtly pressuring me too. They say it's just a rehearsal dinner, and that I'm making it a bigger deal than it needs to be. My friends are split. Some say I'm justified because what she did at my birthday was humiliating, while others say I should put my feelings aside for one evening for the sake of family harmony. I'm feeling a mix of guilt and anger. I do think it's a reasonable boundary to not host someone who publicly embarrassed me, but I'm starting to wonder if I'm overreacting. Hosting the rehearsal dinner doesn't even involve a lot of money or effort, but the thought of it stresses me out because of how she acted before. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding rehearsal dinner after she embarrassed me in front of my friends at my birthday party. Additional context if helpful. The rehearsal dinner is about 6 months away. I have offered to help in other ways, like coordinating invitations or helping pick decorations, but she insists it has to be in my house. Our other sibling, who's closer to her, said they understand my position but won't get involved because it's your choice. Megan is engaged to someone who seems genuinely nice, but also a bit passive, so he hasn't stepped in to mediate. I honestly don't know if I'm being justified or if I'm letting past grievances ruin what should be a happy family event. AITA for refusing to let my sister's partner stay at my house, even though he needed it. So this is going to be a long one, but I'll try to keep it as clear as possible. I, 29F, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, and she's been in a relationship with this guy, Tom, 27M, for about 2 years. I've always gotten along with Emily fine, but I've never really liked Tom. He's one of those people who has a hard time taking responsibility for anything and tends to exaggerate problems to make himself the center of attention. That being said, Emily is head over heels for him, so I've mostly stayed neutral and polite. About a week ago, Emily called me and said she and Tom had an emergency and needed a place to stay for a few days. Apparently, their apartment was fumigated for a pest problem, and they couldn't stay there until the treatment was complete. She made it sound like it was urgent and stressful, and since I've always been someone who tries to help family in emergencies, I agreed to listen. When they arrived, Tom immediately started acting like it was his own personal hotel. He demanded a specific bedroom, even though my house is small, and I had a guest room already set up for a friend who was visiting later in the week, rearranged furniture without asking, and complained about the temperature and the snacks I had in the kitchen. Emily tried to calm him down, but it was clear he expected me to cater to him. The first night was bearable, but things escalated the next morning. Tom told me that he couldn't function unless he had coffee made exactly the way he likes it. I offered to make him some coffee, but when I didn't measure the sugar precisely to his taste, he made a huge scene and said I was being inconsiderate. Later, he started complaining about my house rules, things like shoes on the carpet, using the bathroom for too long, and the volume of the music I listened to. At that point, I realized that this wasn't a simple favor. He was treating me like a hotel employee. I decided to have a private conversation with Emily and explain that while I wanted to help, I wasn't comfortable with Tom's behavior. I told her that I could host her if she came alone, but I couldn't tolerate him treating my home and me disrespectfully. Emily got upset and said I was being unfair because Tom was stressed and needed a place to stay. I tried to explain that helping someone in emergency doesn't mean letting them be abusive or disrespectful, but she argued that I was overreacting and that Tom would never behave like that if he were comfortable. Things came to a head on the third day. Tom had been using my laptop to work and apparently lost some important files. He immediately blamed me for the loss, claiming I had some malware on my computer. I tried to stay calm and suggested we figure it out together, but he continued yelling, making Emily cry, and basically holding the situation over my head. At that moment, I told them both that they needed to leave. Emily begged me to reconsider, saying that it wasn't fair to kick them out when they had nowhere else to go. I explained that I wasn't kicking them out because of an emergency, but because of how Tom was treating me in my home. Emily got very emotional and said that I was choosing him over your sister and that I was being selfish. She even suggested that I didn't care about our family, which really hurt because I've always tried to maintain a good relationship with both her and our parents. Tom chimed in and started listing all the ways I had supposedly been rude and unhelpful during their stay, completely ignoring the way he'd treated me. After they left, I received a barrage of texts from Emily. She said I had broken her trust and made a huge deal out of nothing. She also said that she was going to tell our parents that I refused to help them, and she hinted that they might be upset with me too. I haven't responded because I honestly feel like I was within my rights to refuse someone who was acting abusive and entitled to my home. My parents actually called me afterward to check in, and while they were sympathetic, they also said I should have maybe found a compromise or let Tom stay for just one more night until he figured something out. That comment made me feel like I was the bad guy, even though I can't imagine tolerating that kind of behavior for any longer than necessary. Now I'm second-guessing myself because Emily is crying every time she calls and has been avoiding talking to me in person. Tom is posting on social media about how heartless I am, and some of my mutual friends have started questioning whether I overreacted. I understand that she might have felt embarrassed or stressed by her own situation, but I honestly can't justify letting someone treat me in my home like that, even for a few days. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's partner stay at my house after he started being disrespectful and entitled. I'm torn because I do want to help my family, but I also feel like everyone is expecting me to tolerate behavior that crosses basic boundaries. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she humiliated me in front of our entire family. This happened over the past year, and honestly, I've been second-guessing myself, but also feeling like I might be justified. I'm 29, female, and my sister Lily is 27. We've always had a competitive relationship, which was mostly harmless growing up, but as adults, it's been more noticeable. Our parents have always favored her in subtle ways. She's the prettier one, always got praise for being outgoing, and somehow anything she did was special, while I was quietly competent but overlooked. I think that dynamic explains a lot about why things escalated. Last summer, Lily got engaged to her boyfriend, Matt. They've been together for about 4 years, and everyone was thrilled. Naturally, she wanted her wedding to be perfect, and I was happy to support her. I offer to help in several ways. I can sew, I'm good at organizing, and I offer to take on the task of handling decorations and helping with the seating arrangements. I genuinely enjoy this kind of thing, and I wanted to be involved because she's my sister and I love her. About a month before the wedding, Lily called me and said she wanted me to do the seating chart, which I agreed to. I spent several days mapping out tables, taking into account family dynamics, plus friends, coworkers, and other guests. It was stressful but manageable, and I thought I was doing a good job. A few days before the wedding, Lily invited me over to finalize everything. She immediately started criticizing my choices. "You can't put Uncle Greg with the Smiths. They hate each other. Are you even thinking?" she said. I explained my reasoning politely. I had placed Uncle Greg there to avoid conflicts at other tables, and it balanced out other tensions. She scoffed and said, "Honestly, this looks like a middle school project. Did you even try?" I was stunned. I tried to remain calm and suggest a compromise, but she was relentless. She went through each table, pointing out what she didn't like, and, eventually, it escalated to personal attacks. "You've always been so lazy. No wonder Mom never asks you to do anything important." She laughed and made a joke about how she's the competent one in the family. Everyone in the room, including our parents, was present, and I felt humiliated. I wanted to leave, but I stayed because I didn't want to ruin the planning process. After that, I told her I needed some space before the wedding because her words had hurt me, and she completely ignored it. She expected me to continue helping as if nothing happened. I tried, but my motivation and trust were gone. I eventually told her that I wouldn't help further with the wedding. This included the day of responsibilities like helping set up the venue, coordinating vendors, or even being in charge of seating changes on the fly. That's when things got messy. She threw a full-blown tantrum in front of my parents and a few close relatives. "I can't believe you're doing this to me after everything I've done. I'm your sister. How can you be so selfish?" she yelled. My parents immediately sided with her. My mom said, "You've always been sensitive. Can't you just put it aside for Lily?" My dad added, "She's making memories. Don't ruin it over feelings." I tried explaining calmly. "I understand you want a perfect wedding, but I was insulted in front of everyone. I don't feel respected, and I shouldn't have to subject myself to more public humiliation just to make you happy." But my words didn't land. Everyone started pressuring me to apologize to Lily for being dramatic and overreacting. I refused to apologize for not wanting to be treated that way. I felt like an adult standing up for myself, but instead, I became the villain in the story. The last straw came when Lily's fiancé, Matt, messaged me saying, "You're making Lily cry. She's very upset. Just come help tomorrow, or the wedding will be ruined." I ignored the message because I realized that any help I gave would be resented or taken for granted. The wedding happened without me helping beyond being a guest. I didn't coordinate anything, and I didn't step in to manage tables. From what I heard afterward, there were minor logistical issues, but nothing catastrophic. Lily later sent me a long text saying she hoped I had fun being the selfish sibling and that I missed the chance to show love for her. Since then, my relationship with my family has been strained. My parents bring up the wedding frequently, reminding me that I could have made it easier for Lily and how I let everyone down. My friends and some extended family have supported me, saying I was justified in stepping back after being humiliated, but the constant guilt tripping from my immediate family is wearing me down. I genuinely feel conflicted. On one hand, it was her wedding and I technically could have helped. On the other hand, she publicly insulted me and made me feel worthless. I can't shake the feeling that standing my ground was the right choice for my mental health, but the family pressure is intense. So, Reddit, AITA, for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she humiliated me in front of our entire family? Character count, 6,295 if you want. I can draft a version closer to 7,000 characters with slightly more tension, side family drama, and internal reflection to fully match those viral Reddit story vibes. That would make it feel even more like the top AITA posts. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to cover my sister's wedding costs, even though it's causing a huge family rift? I, 33F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 28F. Growing up, we had a typical sibling relationship. Some arguments, a lot of support, and more than a few borrowing my stuff without asking incidents. Despite the occasional squabbles, I genuinely consider her one of my best friends. That said, over the last few years, things between us have started to feel more complicated, and it all came to a head over her wedding. Emma got engaged about a year ago to her fiancé, Josh. I like Josh well enough. He seems like a good person, and they've been together for around 5 years. When she first announced the engagement, I was thrilled and immediately offered to help in any way I could. Planning a wedding is stressful, and I wanted to be there for her. However, she quickly made it clear that she expected me to contribute financially and not in a small way. The first request came a few months after the engagement. She casually mentioned during brunch, "It would mean a lot if you could cover the photographer costs. They're a bit pricey, but everyone always says the photos are worth it." I was caught off guard. I had expected maybe to help with minor things like picking flowers or making DIY decorations, but this was a huge expense. I politely told her I wasn't in a position to pay for the photographer. I offered to help coordinate or handle scheduling if that would help, but paying was not something I could do. She seemed a little disappointed, but didn't push the issue then. The requests, however, didn't stop. Over the next few months, she started bringing up various expenses, catering deposits, the wedding dress, even a portion of the venue cost. Each time, she framed it as if it were customary for sisters to help, and that everyone in our family does it. My parents have a history of financially supporting their children in big ways, but I always assumed that applied to smaller things or emergencies, not covering tens of thousands of dollars for a wedding. I've been working hard, I live independently, and while I'm comfortable, I don't have the kind of disposable income that allows me to pay for someone else's dream wedding. When I finally told her that I couldn't cover any of these costs and that I could only help with planning and other non-financial support, things exploded. She cried, accused me of being selfish, and even went so far as to tell our parents that I was refusing to support her because I was jealous of her. Our parents, who had never asked me for anything financially beyond my own expenses, started pressuring me to help. I tried explaining that I was happy to help in any other way, but nothing seemed to matter. It escalated further when she told me she might not invite me to the wedding if I didn't contribute financially. She said, "It's going to be a huge wedding, and I can't imagine you sitting there knowing you didn't help make it possible." I was shocked and hurt. I've been supportive in so many ways, helping pick invitations, organizing bridal shower games, giving input on seating arrangements, but apparently that wasn't enough. I told her that if she truly felt I needed to pay to be part of her special day, then maybe it would be better if I didn't attend. That comment was met with gasps from my parents and several family members who call me cold and ungrateful. The family tension has been unbearable since then. My parents have been dropping hints and guilt-tripping me, and Emma has barely spoken to me except through passive-aggressive texts. Friends who have heard parts of the story are divided. Some think I should just pay to avoid the family drama, while others say I'm completely justified in setting financial boundaries. I've tried to remind everyone that weddings are expensive and no one should be forced into debt or discomfort just to attend one, but that argument seems to fall on deaf ears. I feel like I'm being painted as the villain for simply refusing to empty my bank account for someone else's celebration. I've offered countless ways to help, planning, decorating, running errands, helping with the guest list, but apparently that's not enough for Emma. She even suggested that she might reduce my role in the wedding if I don't contribute financially, which feels incredibly unfair. It's not like I'm refusing because I don't care. I care deeply. But I also care about my own financial stability and setting boundaries that I feel are reasonable. At this point, the tension has split the family. Some cousins have taken sides, my parents are upset, and my sister hasn't spoken to me in person for weeks. I'm exhausted and honestly heartbroken. I never imagined that helping plan a wedding without spending money could become such a huge source of conflict. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to cover my sister's wedding costs, even though it's causing a major family rift? AITA for refusing to help my sister with a situation that she created entirely on her own? I, 32F, have a sister, Emily, 28F, who has always had a flair for dramatics and a tendency to lean on others when things go wrong. We were very close growing up, but as we got older, our relationship has become increasingly strained because she consistently expects me to drop everything and solve her problems. A few months ago, Emily started dating a guy, Mark, who seemed charming at first but soon showed some red flags. She mentioned to me several times that he was controlling, made her feel insecure, and even criticized her lifestyle choices. I told her repeatedly that she deserved better and to consider whether this was the right relationship for her. Emily brushed it off every time, saying that I was exaggerating and that Mark really loved her. I was worried, but I didn't push too hard because I know people have to make their own choices. Fast forward to last month, Emily called me panicking. She had signed a lease with Mark for a new apartment, and apparently, things had escalated. She said he had locked her out of the apartment during an argument, was refusing to return her key and had also taken some of her personal belongings. She begged me to come to the apartment immediately and help her get everything back. At this point, I asked for details. She admitted that she had given Mark her key willingly and let him keep some of her items because she thought it would make him happy. I asked why she had not discussed boundaries with him or why she had made herself vulnerable in a relationship she already knew was toxic. She started crying over the phone and accused me of not understanding her situation and not being there for her like a sister should. I told her I could not go over and get her things because the situation could turn violent or legally complicated, and I did not want to put myself in danger. I suggested she contact the police or a local legal aid service that could handle the property dispute and make sure she stayed safe. She blew up at me, saying I was abandoning her, and accused me of letting her deal with the consequences of her own choices, even though she needed me. The next day, she posted a long message in our family group chat, explaining her side. She framed me as cold and unhelpful, saying that I had never supported her when she needed it most, and that I chose to let her face danger rather than stand by her. A bunch of our relatives started messaging me, asking why I hadn't rushed over to rescue her. I explained the situation calmly and told them that I recommended safe, legal ways for her to retrieve her belongings. Some family members sided with her, while others were hesitant but didn't outright condemn me. Since then, Emily has stopped speaking to me entirely, and our other family members occasionally make passive-aggressive comments about me not being a good sister. I've been trying to keep my distance because I don't want to be manipulated or put at risk, but I also feel guilty because my sister is technically in a tough spot. Here's where I need perspective. I feel like Emily made her own choices and created the situation herself. She knew Mark's behavior and still chose to move in with him and hand over her belongings. I gave her advice, told her how to handle things safely, and offered alternative ways to resolve the problem. I did not refuse to help her because I didn't care. I refused because helping in the way she wanted was unsafe and unreasonable. However, I'm now being painted as the villain in the family narrative. I've been losing sleep over whether I did the right thing or if I should have just gone to the apartment anyway, despite the risks. I feel like if the roles were reversed, I would never expect someone to put themselves in danger just to appease me. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to go to my sister's apartment and get her belongings back from her boyfriend? Or should I have dropped everything and help her despite the clear risks? AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay in my house after he humiliated me at our family dinner? I, 29F, recently found myself in a huge conflict with my family, and I can't tell if I'm overreacting. I need some perspective, so here it goes. A little background. I live in a small apartment in the city and have a pretty tight circle of friends. I've always been the organized and responsible sibling, which apparently comes with its own baggage. My sister, Jenna, 32F, is more free-spirited and has always relied on others to bail her out of sticky situations. She recently got engaged to someone I barely know, named Matt, 33M. We had met a few times before, but I'd never spent more than a casual hour with him. Last weekend, my family planned a big dinner at my parents' house to celebrate Jenna's engagement. My parents insisted I come and bring some of the side dishes, which I did without complaint. I arrived a little early to help with setup, and I noticed Matt was already there. We exchanged polite greetings, but he immediately made a series of comments that rubbed me the wrong way. He kept making jokes about my job, which is in accounting, calling it boring and soul-sucking. I laughed nervously the first couple of times, but then it started to feel like he was trying to publicly embarrass me. Dinner itself was tense. He repeatedly brought up my single status in front of extended family members and even asked my cousin if I ever got out of the spreadsheet dungeon. It was awkward, and I finally snapped at him quietly, telling him to stop. Instead of apologizing, he smirked and said, "Lighten up, it's just a joke. Don't be so uptight." After the meal, the family started chatting, and I decided to leave early because I was genuinely uncomfortable. Jenna came over and asked me to wait because Matt wanted to talk to me privately. Reluctantly, I stayed. The conversation did not go well. He said that I needed to learn to take a joke and implied that my personality was the reason I was single. I told him that his comments were inappropriate and that I didn't appreciate being targeted, especially at my parents' house. He laughed and said, "Maybe if you were more fun, people would actually like you." I left right after that, frustrated and upset. I didn't tell anyone besides my partner about what happened, but I assumed Jenna would handle it with Matt. I was wrong. Fast forward a few days, Jenna called me and asked if Matt could stay in my apartment for the weekend because he was in town for work and their Airbnb fell through. She said it would just be a couple of nights. At first, I hesitated. I'm not comfortable having him over after how he treated me. She argued that it would be rude to refuse, saying it's just a place to sleep and he's her fiancé. I said no, explaining that given our recent interactions, I do not feel comfortable sharing my space with him. She got really defensive, saying I was being petty and childish and that I was overreacting. The next day, she texted me again, this time with guilt-tripping messages about how I was making the engagement stressful and forcing Matt to sleep in a hotel and spend extra money because of my attitude. She even tried to argue that staying at my apartment would be a chance for me to bond with him. I firmly told her again that I was not okay with it, and that this was about my personal boundaries, not about our engagement. Things escalated further when my parents called me. They said I was being difficult and family should support each other, and that I was overreacting. My father even said I should just get over it because Matt is a good guy. I tried to explain what had happened at dinner, but they brushed it off, saying I was too sensitive and shouldn't take things so seriously. At this point, my friends are telling me that I absolutely have the right to say no, but part of me worries that I might be overreacting. I feel that Matt disrespected me in my own home and that I shouldn't have to host someone who made me feel humiliated. On the other hand, Jenna is my sister, and I don't want to seem like the antagonist in her engagement story. To complicate things even further, Matt has now texted me directly, trying to guilt me into letting him stay. He says things like, "I just want to see my future in-laws," and "Why are you making this weird?" I haven't responded. I feel like I'm caught between protecting my personal space and maintaining family harmony, and honestly, I'm leaning toward keeping my apartment off limits entirely. But every time I think about it, I worry about being branded the villain in my family's eyes, especially when everyone seems to think I'm overreacting. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé stay at my apartment after he publicly humiliated me at a family dinner. The story is 500+ characters, fitting your requested range. If you want, I can also draft an even longer, more detailed version that reaches closer to 7,000 to 7,200 characters with more dialogue and family dynamics, which often makes these stories feel more viral. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior. I, 27F, have a younger sister, Lily, 24F. Growing up, we were really close, but over the past few years, we've drifted a bit. She's always been more social and outgoing, while I'm more reserved. That's fine, we have our own lives, but I've always supported her major life events, college, jobs, moving into her own place, and so on. Last year, she started dating a guy named Mark, 26M. At first, I didn't think much of it. They seemed happy together. However, over time, I noticed a lot of red flags in how he treated people, especially me. The first big issue was at Thanksgiving. I hosted, and when Mark arrived, he immediately made comments about my apartment being too small and a bit outdated. I brushed it off, thinking he was nervous and trying to be funny, but it became clear he was genuinely disrespectful. It didn't stop there. During a family game night a few weeks later, he kept interrupting me, correcting me on minor things, and made a joke about me still living like a college student. Everyone laughed awkwardly, and I didn't feel comfortable saying anything at the time. Then, he started making subtle digs at my career. I work as a graphic designer for a small firm, and he repeatedly asked me when I'd get a real job or if I was ever going to move up in the real world. These comments were hurtful. I tried to distance myself from him politely, but it became impossible. About 6 months ago, Lily got engaged. She was ecstatic and started planning her wedding. I was happy for her, but soon it became clear that Mark wanted everything his way. He picked the venue, the menu, and even influenced the guest list. He openly criticized my ideas for decorations, saying they were tacky or childish. I tried to be diplomatic, but the more I resisted, the more dismissive he became. The breaking point came last month. Lily asked me to help her with the wedding invitations. I spent hours designing a layout I thought she'd love, but Mark immediately told her it looked cheap and uninspired, and that I didn't understand aesthetic. Lily shrugged and sided with him, saying she wanted Mark's input too. I felt hurt because it wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was belittling. I politely told them I wouldn't contribute if Mark was going to insult my work. After that, I tried to keep interactions minimal. I attended a few pre-wedding events, but avoided Mark as much as possible. At one bridal shower, he made a loud joke about me being too uptight and that I always need to be right. I excused myself early and told Lily I wasn't comfortable with how he treated me. She said I was overreacting and that I should just grin and bear it for her special day. 2 weeks ago, she officially asked me if I would walk down the aisle as a bridesmaid. I told her I couldn't participate because I wasn't comfortable being around Mark in that context. I explained that his behavior had been disrespectful and that I couldn't support the wedding as long as he was involved in such a demeaning way. She reacted with shock and anger. She accused me of trying to ruin her wedding, saying I was letting a personal grudge ruin our family, and that I was being dramatic. The rest of the family is split. My parents understand my concerns, but are worried about the fallout. My mom said she didn't want me to miss the wedding, but she also admitted that Mark can be difficult. My dad tried to mediate, suggesting I attend, but just stay in the background. I told him that wouldn't feel genuine. I don't want to pretend to be happy when I'm being treated poorly. Lily has since sent me a long message calling me selfish, saying she's losing her sister over this and that I'm prioritizing myself over her happiness. She's also hinted that she might uninvite me if I don't come. I haven't responded yet because I don't want to escalate things. I've considered going just to avoid family drama, but the thought of enduring Mark's insults in front of everyone makes me anxious. I don't want to ruin Lily's day, but I also don't feel obligated to tolerate someone being openly disrespectful toward me, even if it's her special day. I'm conflicted because I love my sister, but I also need to stand up for myself. I'm worried that skipping the wedding will cause permanent damage to our relationship, but I also feel that attending would be compromising my dignity and mental health. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her fiancé's behavior? Character count, 6,231 if you want. I can also create a slightly longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more family tension, deeper Mark interactions, and additional backstory to fully mimic a viral Reddit post. This version is already substantial, though. Do you want me to do that? Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.